Have you ever walked out of a movie theater absolutely buzzing, thinking you've just seen a masterpiece of pure entertainment, only to find out later you completely missed the point? I mean, not just a subtle theme, but the entire explosive, revolutionary thesis of the film. That's the experience millions of people had with Paul Thomas Anderson's Times, one battle after another. This was the film that completely dominated 2026. We're talking a cinematic earthquake. It swept 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and a Best Director win for PTA himself. It pulled in a massive $209.6 million at the global box office. Critics adored it, giving it a staggering 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audiences loved it too, giving it a solid 88% popcorn meter score. It was a mainstream event, playing in every IMAX and 70mm theater you could find. People went to see it for the same reason they go see a John Wick movie, for the visceral, high-octane spectacle. But here's the twist. According to some incredibly sharp analysis, this Oscar-winning box office smash hit is actually a deeply subversive dog whistle film. It's a cinematic Trojan horse delivering a radical left-wing message right under the nose of the very establishment that was busy showering it with awards. So that's the setup. A blockbuster that's secretly a manifesto. But how do you pull that off? How do you whisper a revolutionary message so loudly that only a few people can hear it while millions of others just hear the explosions? Well, the core idea is that the film functions as a kind of resonance device for the American left. It operates on a specific frequency that the dominant culture, the establishment, has simply stopped monitoring. There's even a line of dialogue in the movie that winks at this very reality. The enemies have been victorious for too long. They are no longer listening on this frequency. It's a brilliant, almost meta commentary. PTA uses symbols of rebellion that our culture has already digested and turned into products, like Leonardo DiCaprio playing a sort of burnt out Che Guevara, a figure we're used to seeing on t-shirts in a mall. This implies that our current cultural climate, our so-called victory of capitalism, has made the establishment complacent. The system has become so effective at turning rebellion into a commodity that has lost the ability to distinguish between a times performance times of revolution and an actual times proposal times. For one, Paul Thomas Anderson isn't just making a movie here. He's running an experiment. He's testing the absolute limits of how much subversion a system can swallow, as long as it's wrapped in enough gorgeous gold standard cinematography. It brings to mind that old idea of the society of the spectacle, that when everything is televised, when everything is turned into an image, the actual truth of an event gets lost. By making a film that times looks times like the spectacle, PTA uses the establishment's own tools to critique it. The frequency isn't some secret spy code. It's the ability to see past the celebrity faces to the historical patterns they represent. If you only see Leonardo DiCaprio, the movie star, you've completely missed the burnt out revolutionary he's playing. So the message is broadcast on a hidden frequency, but to really understand who's supposed to be listening, we need to decode the messengers themselves. The characters in this film aren't just people. They are walking, breathing allegories, ghosts of American politics. Each character is a precisely calibrated political avatar. You have Regina Hall's character, Perfidia. She's the leader of a revolutionary group and represents the legacy of radical black civil rights movements, particularly the Black Panther Party. Her eventual betrayal of the organization isn't just a plot twist, it's a metaphor for how those powerful movements were either co-opted or forced to compromise, paving the way for the neoliberal era. On the other side, you have Sean Penn as Lockjaw. He's the personification of the deep state and the white Christian nationalist archetype. He gets recruited into this shadowy group called the Christmas Adventure Club, a name that PTA reportedly chose to be a loud, clanging dog whistle for the intersection of white Christian identity and colonial imperialist adventure. And standing between them is Charlene, the mixed heritage daughter who ultimately rejects her biological connection to the establishment, to Lockjaw, and becomes the new generation's resistor. You see, these aren't just roles. They're a map of the American ideological timeline. When you cast a star like Sean Penn as this white supremacist figure who is, in the end, consumed by the very ideological purity test he enforces, that's a scathing prediction. The film is arguing that these forces will ultimately devour themselves and Charlene's identity, which is defined by her working class status and her diverse chosen family rather than her bloodline, signals a crucial shift away from the identity politics of the past and towards a new kind of class-based solidarity. Perhaps the most important critique here is of the past itself. The film seems to look at the punk rock star activism of the 60s and 70s with the skeptical eye. Perfidia's generation is shown as vulnerable to betrayal partly because they were so open to being idolized. By making Charlene a more grounded, almost anonymous grassroots figure, the film suggests the next wave of resistance won't have a single face for the media to build up and then tear down. It's a call for the left to stop looking for a new Che Guevara and instead start building the kind of decentralized infrastructure that can survive his absence. This idea of shifting from an individual hero to a more organized form of resistance, well, it's baked right into the name of the revolutionary group itself, which is another historical code hidden in plain sight. The central revolutionary cell in the movie is called France of 75. Now, on the surface, that's just a cryptic, cool sounding name, but the dog whistle is deafening if you're listening. 1775 was the start of the American Revolutionary War. By sticking France in front of it, PTA is drawing a direct ideological line between the American Revolution and the French Revolution, a shared radical wave that's often conveniently separated in our history books. The film then reinforces this by showing us a group of black female nuns who are practicing liberation theology and, as a side detail, growing grass. It's a powerful visual shorthand that connects the dots between the 1960s anti-war movements, black civil rights, and modern environmental activism. What this does is it forces you, the viewer, to see the current political landscape not as some temporary culture war, but as the latest battle in a line struggle that has been going on since 1775. It reframes the present as a state of continuous revolution. This isn't a new conflict. It's just the old one with the mask off. The nuns in their progressive church aren't a new invention. They represent a historical coalition that we've simply forgotten about because we're so focused on the 2-4-hour news cycle. This deep historical context brings us to the film's most haunting, almost Black Mirror-esque motif. A secret code that isn't about unlocking a door, but about understanding your place in reality. Throughout the film, characters use a secret code. The question is, what time is it? And the only correct response is, time does not exist, but it controls us all. Leo, the burnt out revolutionary, can never quite remember the answer. This is the philosophical heart of the movie. It's a direct shot at how our own history has been televised, commodified, and turned into entertainment, causing us to lose our historical identity and purpose. The code is a trap. If you believe time is linear, you believe the revolution failed and it's over. But if you understand that time does not exist, you realize that the struggles of 1775, of 1966's times, the Battle of Algiers, and of 2026 are all part of the same fight happening simultaneously. Leo's inability to remember the code is his tragedy. He's become a ghost in his own life because he has accepted the televised, commodified version of his own past. So, as the credits roll, we're left to wonder if we're the uninitiated audience members just munching on popcorn, or if maybe, just maybe, we finally tuned our ears to the right frequency. So, if we put all these pieces together, what does it all really mean? Well, a few core insights stand out. First, the Trojan horse strategy. The idea that high-budget mainstream cinema can be a potent vehicle for radical subversion, mainly by exploiting the establishment's habit of prioritizing profit and spectacle over ideological scrutiny. Then there's the use of allegory as anatomy, where the characters create a historical map tracing the decline of individualistic rockstar activism and pointing towards the rise of a decentralized, class-aligned future. The film also argues for the persistence of struggle. by linking 2026 to 1775 and times the Battle of Algiers. It insists that this isn't a new conflict, but the same ongoing unmasked battle that has defined the West for centuries. And finally, there's the trap of modernity. The loss of historical time is used as a weapon against us. When we forget the frequency of our own history, we become burnt out observers of a spectacle that we should be a part of. In the end, one battle after another times poses a question that lingers long after the IMAX screen goes dark. Are you a witness or a participant? PTA has shown us that the deep state, the revolution, and the establishment are not just headlines, they are the frequencies on which we live our lives. If we sit in the theater and only see the explosions, we are the ones time is controlling. But if we hear the whistle, we have to face the uncomfortable truth. The movie isn't ending, we're just moving into the next scene. The real question isn't what happens next. It's what time is it? And if you can't remember the answer, you might already be